Welcome into the Who Day Den. I'm your host Taylor, trying something a little different. Historically, we have done audio only, and we might be branching out a little bit into, some video content here. We'll see. We'll see how the YouTube thing gets going here, and I don't know. I got a lot to figure out. This is not the in setup here. We'll get some stuff. I got a nice helmet to display once I get a case for it. Gonna fix that glare right there off the old window in the basement. Get a new camera, like see me in even more HD. We'll figure some stuff out, but this is what we got for now. And this episode is uh, the lows and the highs together. I guess we've got some. I hesitate to say breaking news, not just because it happened yesterday on Sunday, but also because I don't really think too much has really changed. But reports yesterday that the Bengals are listening to trade offers for Trey Hendrickson. That has just been the ongoing saga of the entire off season, really. And you go all the way back to March when it was that Trey Hendrickson was requesting a trade and what's going to happen there, and go see his value, and then not showing up to camp, and then does show up to camp, and all the jabs back and forth in the media and whatever else. But I think it's a whole bunch of nothing meaningful, even though it feels like. I think here's the thing. I'll say it's meaningful in the aspect that from a fan perspective, this just adds to the frustration of the offseason, where we have been dealing with a lot of negative storylines and narratives and things like that. We go back to last year, dealt with the Jamar Chase hold in, which was kind of a whole distraction, and then the T Higgins stuff has been sort of distracting for a couple off seasons. We get Jamar and T done in the spring, and then here's another distraction in Trey Hendrickson. And it just seems like with Bengals stuff, it's whether you want to blame the media, whether you want to blame the front office, combination of both. It's very public whenever there are any contract issues amongst the team and a player. And this offseason, it's been Trey Hendrickson. So I will say it's meaningful in that it just adds another layer of bad optics. And it's not just, in this case, it's not, sometimes we get on the media for pushing some narratives that aren't true. This is one that kind of is true, that the Bengals are hard to work with at times, most times, and in some ways refuse to do the things they need to do to advance as a franchise, and that includes guaranteed money in this case for Trey Hendrickson that they're balking at. And so just the poor optics of this is getting kind of annoying. But as far as the situation with Trey, I don't think this has changed anything. I have held to the fact that probably in the days leading up to week 1 against Cleveland, a deal will get done. Again, I have mentioned that both parties need each other. I don't think that has changed. Trey Hendrickson needs the Bengals for a couple of reasons. One, because we hold the rights to his contract now. So unless he wants to sit out, miss games in his age 30, whatever season, and give up money, doesn't really have a whole lot of options. Also on the secondary thing, if winning means a lot to him, there is not a lot of teams. There's really realistically 0 teams that are going to give the Bengals the trade package they would want in order to actually move Trey Hendrickson before the season starts. But the Bengals represent one of the few teams that realistically he could be on this season that is a winner. And some of the teams you saw floated out there in the reports were the Browns, the Panthers, not so great teams, maybe even the Patriots as a sleeper team that could come in with some sort of interest. Those are not teams that are close to competing. And so one, Trey has to play for the Bengals as long as we own the contract. And secondly, it represents a winning team, a team he's comfortable with, a city that he has consistently said, this is where he wants to be. This is who he wants to play for. So he needs the Bengals, and the Bengals need Trey Hendrickson. We saw the defense. We've seen the stats as far as how the team performs with him on the field and not on the field. I mean, we struggled rushing the passer last year, even with Trey Hendrickson, and I can't imagine that has been significantly improved this offseason. So the Bengals need Trey Hendrickson, and I think a deal will get done. The latest reports this morning, I think for Pelissaro, were that I think it was, I don't want to give credit where it's not due, but one of those reporters said that basically the Bengals have offered a substantial APY. It's just the guarantees that's the holdup, which is not surprising whatsoever, that the Bengals don't want to guarantee money after the first year, and that's exactly what Trey wants, is some stability and long-term guarantees. So someone will blink first. I think that this is a calculated leak, if you will. Each party is really going to be digging in and using whatever bit of leverage they can. Now, the Bengals do it a little differently. The Bengals don't often do things super publicly as far as putting out statements on players or anything like that. But their actions or lack thereof speak pretty loudly as well. They're not going to be rushing to bend over backwards and give Trey everything he wants just because this is out in the media. And so I think, teams and players are going to use the leverage they have. This is another thing to try to push things along one way or another. I believe a deal gets done before week 1. I think I told someone yesterday on Twitter, I think there's like a 5% chance I would give it that Trey sits week 1 and then a deal gets done during the season. I think that's a very low chance. I'd put like being traded maybe even at a lower percentage than that. The reports being that the Bengals want a young player back and a first-round pick or multiple picks or whatever it may be. There are not a lot of teams that are going to want to meet that asking price. And I think the asking price probably hasn't changed too much from the spring when we went through this whole exercise where Trey went and found his worth as far as what teams are willing to pay him. And some are willing to pay, but they're not going to give us as a franchise the asking price for trade compensation and also give Trey Hendrickson the money that he wants as well. So I think we're just we're still at a standstill. It's annoying and frustrating and all those things. And I was actually going back. Now, let me preface this. I don't regularly go back to podcast episodes and listen to my own episodes, but I did go back to I think like 3 episodes now ago where Jake and I were ranting about the front office. And because I think a lot of the stuff that we talked about there is still true today. Obviously, not a whole lot has changed in a few weeks, but a lot of it is, I guess, being felt even more. It's bubbling over, whether it's the Trey stuff, whether it's the clip last week of Lucas Patrick at right guard getting absolutely blown up in practice by Chris Jenkins, and how are the Bengals not investing in the line and protecting their franchise asset and Joe Burrow. It's all these are all qualms that are legitimate and things that I think as fans we've struggled with for a number of years. But yeah, I guess as one of the positives, if you want to call it that, at least it's a development, it's a move in the right direction. Developing story from Jordan Schultz is the Bengals will be hosting veteran guard Dalton Risner on a free agent visit on Tuesday. He started 81 games in his career, according to the tweet from Jordan Schultz, and Cincinnati's been looking for interior offensive line help. So I guess that's something. He's a guy that's kind of bounced around a little bit, hasn't really found a home long-term for a couple of years now. But when he's on the field, he produces well, at least in the pass blocking metrics too. I did see some Vikings fans on Twitter talking about his lack of run blocking and how the run game struggled with him at guard. But I think you look at the Bengals offense, and yes, we want the running game to be involved. We want the running game to be efficient. But if you're going to weigh what's more important, pass blocking or run blocking for this team, this offense, and how we're built, it is obviously pass blocking and protecting Joe Burrow, giving him time to find Jamar T, Gesicki, and all those guys as well. So it's an exciting development. You hope he doesn't come to Cincinnati and leave without a deal. I think that would feel a bit demoralizing. It's also unfortunate that we get to August 18th and August 19th, I guess tomorrow when the visit takes place, and we're just now starting to look into some other options and consider that maybe what we have in-house is not good enough. This was an exercise that should have taken place 5 months ago in the middle of March in free agency, and exploring options beyond Lucas Patrick. And I will say, I think Lucas Patrick is getting a raw deal here from the fan base and really the Bengals in general. He's not a starting caliber guard in the NFL. I think ideally he's the depth pieces that you have, like a Volson. I think Cordell Volson is a great depth piece to have on your team. Cody Ford is a fine depth piece to have on your team. And a pinch, someone gets injured in the game, you can plug in Cody Ford and be like, okay, it's fine. It's a stopgap for now. Cody Ford is not meant to be a starting caliber offensive linemen, especially for a team like the Bengals that drop back and pass so much. I think the same is true for Lucas Patrick. He's fine as a depth piece. Thrusting him into a very important position in a pass heavy offense and expecting him to excel is not really fair to him. And so I would hope that the Bengals, whether it's Dalton Risner, whether it's somebody else, they get something done and shore up that line. I think the fan base was a little shocked last week. I don't know why last week. I guess just the jarringness of that clip of Lucas Patrick getting shellacked by Chris Jenkins did enough for everybody to get him fired up. But it's kind of been the situation we've been in since March. We knew the starting interior line was going to be a question mark, hopefully better than last year, which again, last year's bar is worst guard tandem in the NFL. So Dylan Fairchild should provide some sort of improvement there. And then you're looking at the other guard position to just be serviceable, be close to league average. And I think that's one of the things that's so crazy when you think about what to expect from the Bengals this season, whether you want to talk about win totals or whether they make the playoffs or whether they're contenders or whatever it is. It's so hard because we have elite talent at quarterback and at wide receiver and at edge rusher and Trey Hendrickson, and we have other pieces that are good, Orlando Brown, Gesicki, and Chase Brown. Like, we have the pieces there that all you need is for an offensive line to be close to league average, and you need a defense that's close to league average. They could be 21st in the league for all I care. You just can't have bottom of the barrel units like we did last year at guard and like we did at defense in some metrics last year. So you hope there's improvement there, and that the Bengals front office does enough in the upcoming weeks to shore up some of those question marks. I was going back and listening to that episode Jake and I did railing on the front office. The whole thing about the safety position drives me insane too. It's like Geno Stone takes a pay cut. We don't immediately use that money to do anything obvious as far as improve the team. Just hold the money. And then we're comfortable just running out there with Geno Stone and Von Bell. And sure enough, if Geno suffers an injury like he has this offseason, now you're relying on whether it's Tyson Anderson or Dejon Anthony. And it's not to say those guys can't be good. We've wanted Lou Anarumo to give young guys a chance before. So I do think those guys should get an opportunity, but I think it's a little dangerous just to bank on them being the answer. And I think there's like a slight difference too. Last year, I didn't have an issue starting the year with Von Bell as a starter. That was fine to begin the year that way. My issue was as the season progressed and we saw that Von Bell potentially not the answer, Jermaine Pratt not fast enough. Like, as we saw some of these vets in the secondary or wherever on the defense struggle, Lou Anarumo still stuck with them far too long. And I think once they've shown you that they're not going to improve as the season goes along, and you're not going to make improvements with that defense scheme and whatnot, that's when it's time to give some other guys a shot. What I worry about is going into a season saying, hey, Geno Stone wasn't great last year. Hopefully he's better with a new defensive coordinator. But even if he gets injured, Tyson Anderson's next guy up. He's been on the team for 4 years now or something, 3 years, and unfortunately hasn't gotten an opportunity. So it's a little scary to just bank on him stepping into a starter role and knowing what. Now, the Geno Stone injury doesn't sound like it's serious. He should be playing, but it just kind of goes to the depth of the team, especially when there's free agents sitting out there, whether it's Dalton Risner, whether it's Justin Simmons at safety, whether it's any of these guys that have been brought up ad nauseum this offseason. The Bengals should have been doing more to shore up the depth on the team. And whether the guy you bring in becomes the starter or whether he's a backup, at least you have some depth at the position you feel comfortable with. So anyways, we'll see where the Dalton Risner thing goes, whether he gets signed or not. I'm hopeful that maybe he does, and we feel a little bit better about the offensive line going into the season, because they're going to be tested week one going up against the Myles Garretts and Mason Grahams of the world and the Cleveland defense. So all that to say, I feel like not a whole lot has really changed as far as the team makeup. There's a lot of headlines that sound like the world is falling apart, but I think generally the same remains true as has been the case all offseason. We have the same concerns, we have the same frustrations with the front office and those types of things, but it is what it is. So I will say, going into the Washington game Monday night, apparently the starters will play similar to what they did in the first preseason game, about a quarter or so. There's nobody on offense that I'm really interested in watching. I said that I would be fine if the starters didn't play against the Commanders because they did so well. I know Joe Burrow has wanted reps in preseason before, and I know that's supposed to help us not have such a slow start. I personally attribute a lot of the slow starts with Joe to coming off injuries and having weird off seasons. He's had a very normal off season, knock on wood, and then showed you that he can be fine. He jumped right in there against a backup defense, but still to go in there look as comfortable as he did against Philadelphia. I worry about, suffering a needless injury for any of our offensive starters in a game against Washington, but they'll get some reps regardless. And there's nobody on offense I'm super interested in seeing. It all really comes back to defense for me. I want to see Shamar Stewart finish a little bit better than he did against Philly. He flashed some stuff, but if he can finish some of those plays, whether it's working from the interior or the edge or wherever it may be, that's really the guy that I'm looking most for. And maybe those safeties as well, whether it's Tyson Anderson or Dejon Anthony, and seeing what they do, just in case there's the chance that they are getting a little bit more run this year, whether it's due to injury or performance of other safeties or whatnot. But other than that, it's like I feel like we've reached the part of the offseason here where we're mid August, and the fun of training camp when it first kicks off, and you're like, wow, we've got some stuff to do and look at and all that stuff, plays and whatever to react to. That's kind of worn off a little bit. The first preseason game was fun to see our team out there playing for a quarter. For me, at least, that's worn off a bit. And now I'm just ready for the season to start. But alas, we still have 3 weeks left until week 1. So we'll see. We'll see how things go against the Washington Commanders. But I think the overall vibes around the team from the fan base is pretty discouraged and kind of down, which I understand why. But I don't know. I think for me, I guess it's just like I went into this already knowing that I was concerned about the interior offensive line and concerned about defensive pass rush. Like nothing has really changed from my concerns. I'm not any more concerned or less concerned because I felt like I was already appropriately prepared for some question marks around the team, and those unfortunately weren't addressed adequately in the offseason. And I don't want this to turn into another front office rant episode. That's already been done. And there's a lot to like maybe add to that or expand upon, but that's not really the point of the episode. But again, I sit here August 18th and I still feel 75% confident. I'll say roughly 75% confident that the Trey Hendrickson thing is done sooner rather than later. And I will say, now I'm thinking about it, I said a 5% chance that he doesn't play week 1. So a 95% chance that he does. My confidence level is about 75% that that's the case. I'm still like a little wary, like I guess there's a chance, but honestly, not a whole lot has changed there for me, and I'm not that concerned about it. But anyways, I don't know if you guys are into the betting thing yet. August 18th, for me, it's fun time to get some futures bets out there. Put a couple articles out already for Sports Illustrated. Check those out if you have not already. Let's see there. I had some Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, few Chase Brown ones, Jamar Chase one out there as well that I did. Actually, I don't think I put that in the article. So anyways, it was DraftKings under division specials, I think was the category. Jamar Chase to lead the AFC North in receiving touchdowns. See, I bet that like 2 weeks ago, probably. It was minus 110, I believe. I then went back and looked. Now let me pull it up and see if I can find it. I went back and looked at AFC North. I don't have it pulled up right now. AFC North touchdowns over the years. Here we go. So last year, Jamar had 17 touchdowns. The next closest was Mark Andrews at 11. The year before that, Jamar Chase, down year, 7 touchdowns. Behind him, Mark Andrews at 6. Jamar still led. So back-to-back years, he's led the AFC North. The 2022 season, Jamar was tied with Amari Cooper for the most receiving touchdowns. And then 2021, his rookie season, obviously, he led the AFC North in touchdowns with 13. The next closest was Mark Andrews with 9. So you're looking at a guy that's either shared or taken the crown of most receiving touchdowns in the AFC North for the last 4 seasons. and most times it hasn't been close. Like last year he was +6, the year before that +1, the year before that tied, and the year before that +4. I think you also look around the AFC North and say who realistically is challenging Ja'Marr Chase for receiving touchdowns. Mark Andrews has done it before, double-digit touchdowns, so I guess you would say he could be a challenger. Njoku doesn't scare me as a guy that's going to score more touchdowns than Ja'Marr Chase. In Pittsburgh, you have the big names in DK Metcalf. I don't see DK Metcalf. He hasn't been a huge touchdown producer in his career. Even with Aaron Rodgers, whether you think that's an upgrade or not from Russell Wilson, doesn't really scare me. He's Baltimore. I already said Andrews. Zay Flowers doesn't score a ton of touchdowns. I don't think I'm missing anybody. I think I hit on all the teams. So to me, I'm not surprised that he was the favorite, Ja'Marr Chase. I was surprised it was not like -150 or -175 or something crazy odds-wise, because that to me feels like a slam dunk. Shout out Gabe. Gabe gave me that prop to look at. So I think it's only on DraftKings. I didn't find it on FanDuel or anything, but I put that one out there, and I think I've got like 8 futures bets out there now. I think the only other team one I did was the Bengals to win over 10.5 games. Was it 10.5 or not? Over 9.5, I think I did, which was like -110 or something like that. And then I did one smaller bet on to win the AFC North, I believe, which I think both are very possible. But there's a tougher path, obviously, to winning the AFC North. It's winning enough games and then also banking on the Ravens not winning more games than you, which unfortunately you don't really have much control over how many games the Ravens win. So anyways, check those out if you haven't already. As it relates to future content, as I mentioned, trying out the old YouTube podcast thing. I kind of want to do some like lives, some like live stream things every once in a while. My issue is my schedule is just not, does not support me consistently going live at the same time every single week. Things get a little wild in my house, so can't always do that, but maybe with enough heads up can do some live streams and get some interaction from you all that usually listen. Can hop onto YouTube or whatever and hop into the chat and do something a little bit more interactive there. But we'll see how this goes. Like I said, the setup still a work in progress. Shout out to my wife for the little thing here on the screen, working on a little banner thing. Got a lot of stuff still to figure out, but making progress. Man, video content's so weird also too, like the whole camera thing and knowing that like the camera stuff is getting posted somewhere. I have to get used to that. It'll be easier when I have a guest, right? Because like I can look at the guest on the screen. Right now I'm like, don't look directly into the camera like that. Don't have shifty eyes. Fix your hair a little bit before you go live. Anyways, thanks for listening. Until next time, Bengals fans, hoot it.